Tim Turner. I'm the founder of Torrid Technologies, and today we're going to be doing an initial basic training in the Retirement View software, and we're going to talk about what it's used for, why it's used, and we're going to build an actual case, so you're going to learn how to use it. I'm not big on PowerPoints, but I do have a couple of quick overview slides here. This is what we're going to go over. We're going to talk about software being too complicated. We're going to talk about why agents and advisors use this software. I got a couple of testimonials, and then we're going to talk about the software and build a case. So first, my background. I had people ask what my background is. I have a degree in electrical engineering. I'm also an attorney. I'm a member of the Georgia Bar. I started doing software and, frankly, created a retirement planning tool just to help people at our company with the 401k plan. This is when I was an engineer, and then decided that it would make a good side business and kind of started that off in 1993. So I've been doing it for over 20 years, and in that time I've designed financial planning software for big companies like Pacific Life, Sun Life, The Hartford, AXA, Janus, TIAA-CREF. There's some not listed here like Franklin Templeton, Century Insurance, a few more that come to mind. I've also taught thousands of advisors and agents how to do retirement planning using our software, and also, more importantly, how to close prospects and bring on new business. So we're going to talk about that. So the problem with most software programs are they're too complicated. This is my sort of pick of the day, if you will. You can see how complicated this picture is, and most software programs are like that. They're so darn complicated, even when you get the training, you still don't really quite understand it. You still don't really know how to use it. You're not comfortable using it. And as you know, anytime you meet with clients, if there's any confusion on their part, it's usually going to lead to them walking out with, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. And of course, they never do. So any type of confusion or complication, as you know, is not going to be good when you're meeting with clients. Why do successful advisors and agents use this? Well, because it's easy to learn and it's easy to use. It's not very complicated and it's not confusing, and it helps you close more prospects. In fact, one agent tracked it and they closed 30% more prospects than they otherwise do. It gets the clients opening up about their assets, and we'll be talking about that more during this training. And it helps overcome what I call let me think about it syndrome, where they want to think about it and get out of there, and then you never hear from them again. Okay, here's a couple of little testimonials. This guy is a very big producer, and he started using it. He only used a yellow notepad, didn't like software, wasn't good with the computer. And in the very first month, he says this software program helped me write $1.6 million in annuity production. And that's true. Now, granted, this guy Craig is doing over $40 million annually in production. So, you know, he built it into his process, but he teaches everyone that he encounters how to use it. Adib Benyashay, he's with Asset Marketing, and he says that the Retirement View software has been one of the cornerstones of our presentation to clients. It allowed us to present complicated spreadsheets in a visual format that help clients see and understand the pitfalls. The software is used in almost every client's meeting and helped close sizable cases. We closed 30% more prospects using Retirement View. And he also, one of the presentations that Adib gave, he talked about closing an $8 million case. Now, that wasn't all with one person. It was with partners in an architectural firm where he closed one partner and helped them, and then got to most of the other partners and ended up being $8 million worth of business. Here's another producer, Bruce Whitey. He has a radio program, but he closed a $1 million case. It was 4 $250,000 annuities. He says that I used the retirement view to show them how a stock market drop could cause a problem in their retirement, and then showed the solution was to use annuities to prevent losses on a portion of their investment portfolio. And that was a high net worth case. I think the people had about roughly $5 or $6 million in investments, and so he just put a portion into the annuities, and that ended up being a $1 million case. Now, don't let all these big cases scare you away, because I just use these because they're really stellar examples, but it's used to close the small case. You know, the $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 case. It's used to close $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 cases. Pretty much any case, it can help close annuities, life, wealth management even. Okay, I'm just going to show you a couple of quick overview pictures, and I'm going to dive into the demo. So here's the main retirement picture. Red means they're out of money. And you see it's not a boring gray. It's not all gray. It's got some color to it. And it's actually kind of like a game. The game you're going to play with the client is get the red out. How do I get the red out? Here's the investments picture. So it'll show you, there are different investment types, tax-deferred, taxable, tax-free. It'll show you as they grow up to retirement and shrink. This is a typical mountain chart for accumulating up to retirement and decumulating during retirement. Cash infusions, this is the last screen I'm going to show you in the little PowerPoint. It's a great little screen because you can model any payment series or income stream or lump sum, and I'm going to show you that in the demo. This is where a lot of times you're going to put lifetime annuity income or split annuities and things like that. I'm not going to go into super detail about annuities because we're going to do that in a separate session, but I will touch on it today. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to walk through an actual case. We're going to input all the data on the fly, and we're going to learn what all the graphs mean, what the buttons are for. You're going to learn how to customize your contact info in the program. You're going to learn how to customize your compliance info, disclaimers, and how to print a detailed report. Okay, let's dive into the software now. Okay, there we go. Push this off to the side. All right, here's the main screen in the program. We haven't really entered anything, so all you see is a bunch of red. And this is what we call the retirement picture, the retirement snapshot, the retirement roadmap, the retirement blueprint. We got guys calling all kinds of different things. When I'm doing these demos, I usually talk about the retirement picture, and you can talk with your clients about building their retirement picture. And the interesting thing about meeting with clients about their retirement picture and doing it live in person is that they're going to get more interested and more engaged and more enthused about what you're talking about because you're going to do it live as a real conversation. So we're going to start by creating a new client file. And I got Mike. Mike, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, Mike Barber, he's going to help us build a picture here. Actually, let's do a sample for John and Susan Smith. All right, so how old do you want this client to be, Mike?
John is 65.
Okay, so that puts him at 1949?
Yep.
Okay. And he's got a wife, per se?
Yeah, she was born in 52.
Okay. Is that good? Do you want to change any of these months or dates or anything?
That's good.
Okay. I'll just change one for the grins. All right. You can put in the other info. You don't have to. You probably have your contact info somewhere else. A lot of guys that use the contact info are actually working with 401k plans and meeting people back to back. A lot of times they want to do that. So I'm just going to create a file. And so now we're in here. See down here at the bottom we got John and Susan?
Yep.
So we got a place to cover both of them, even if they both work. So John is 66 right now. Is that right? 15, 54, 55. How old did you want him to be? 65?
Yeah, he's 65. He will be 66. You want to put in his date of birth instead?
Maybe I put that in wrong. 1940. Oh, yeah, he already turned 60.
He'll turn
January
60.
1, 1949.
Date of birth is April 14th, 49.
April 14th. Okay. All right, let's try that. There we go. Okay, so he's 65. When is he going to retire?
No, now we've got him at 67.
Well, that's his retirement age.
That's retirement age.
When do you want him to retire? Is he retiring this year?
66 this year.
66. Okay.
Yeah.
66. How much does he make in his job?
100,000.
All righty. Does he get any raises?
4%.
Okay. Now we're going to move over to his qualified tax-deferred investments, his IRAs and his 401ks, mainly traditional IRA, not the Roth IRA. How much has he saved so far?
He's got $1.5 million in a 401k.
Okay. So more of a higher net worth guy.
Yeah.
Is he saving to that still?
Well, he is, but he's finishing up this year.
Okay.
So he'll be putting a little bit more in before he retires in April.
Okay, let's do settings, tax-deferred contributions. You can flip between dollars, which will be a flat amount, or percentage of income. I'm going to flip it to dollars, and then we can just estimate how much he'll put in the next few months before he retires.
All right, $10,000.
Okay, so another $10,000. Does he get any employer matching on that?
No.
Okay. Then I'd ask the client, what kind of return do you think you're getting on that?
Let's go with 6%.
Okay. Do you think he'd still get that return in retirement?
He hopes to.
Okay, so we'll keep that at 6%. Does he have any taxable investments?
He has about $115,000 in mutual funds and savings.
Okay, yep. Mutual funds, CDs, money markets, taxable fund accounts.
Yep.
He's got $115,000. Is he putting any additional money into that?
No.
Okay. What kind of return is he getting?
Let's go with 5 and 5.
All right, sounds good. All right, do you know what kind of Social Security he's going to get?
Yeah, when he starts this year, his annual benefit is $31,400.
Okay. And that's going to start, he's going to start this year at 66?
Yep, that's right.
All righty. Let's run this out. We got Susan that's a little younger. Does he have a Roth IRA? Any type of tax-free investments?
Yeah, he's got a Roth that has $40,000.
Okay. Is he saving to that at all?
No.
What kind of return is he getting?
5.
All right. What about a pension?
Yeah, 24,708 starting this year. No cost of living.
Okay. So that's John. That's the husband. Let's go to the wife, Susan. She's a bit younger. Now, does she work, or is she a homemaker, or what's her situation?
Homemaker. She does not work.
Okay. In cases where they don't work, then I would highly suggest we sync up their retirement year.
All right.
Because even though she doesn't work, we still have sort of a retirement year. He's retiring basically this year, so let's just do the same for her. And let's just sync that up. Now, she's probably going to get Social Security.
$15,700.
Okay.
And if she claims at age 65, her age 65.
She's going to start at her age 65, okay.
Yep.
All righty. Does she have any pension by chance?
No.
Okay, so we did John and Susan. Let's click on Other Assumptions. Now, we need to estimate how much they need to spend in retirement for their cost of living. You have any idea about that?
Yeah, they want $100,000 a year.
Okay.
Before tax.
All righty.
3% inflation is good.
Okay. What about tax rates?
I'm going to say 20 is probably good.
Okay. State, maybe?
Put in 2.
Okay.
Before retirement. Yeah, but all his money is going to be taxable coming out of 401k. Yeah, I see what you mean. The
Okay.
tax rate's the same, 20/20 before and after retirement.
All right, you're okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah, their income level's the same, so. Okay, so how long did that take us?
Pretty slick.
Maybe 10 minutes?
Well,
and we
that's
basically built a basic plan. Now, there's some other stuff we can do, which I'm going to go over, but I usually stop there and pause and just say, okay, we built a basic retirement picture. What is the picture? Each bar on this picture is 1 year of retirement. So you just roll your mouse over and go to this first line down here, 2016. That's actually kind of showing it a year out, but still, it shows that they need $103,000. It shows how much they're getting from Social Security and a pension, and then from their 6% growth, they're funding the rest. And we go on over, a couple of years into it, Susan gets her Social Security, so that bumps up. Now out here, it looks like age 90. You see this gray show up. What's the gray? Well, here's where they're starting to exceed their growth. So the 6% growth is starting to, they're dipping into principal, so to speak. So visually, you can show people that. Now out here at age 103, they still are not out of money. So that's a basic picture. Now in this case, they have 1.6 million or so. And plus they have, a good 60, 70,000 coming from their defined payments, Social Security and pension. So these people are doing really well. Just for grins, let's bump up the income goal to 125,000.
Okay.
Because I just want to show you what that looks like. This is a more typical picture.
Right.
Either they're not as high net worth, or they think they can maintain and fund a bigger retirement than they really can. The red creeps in. So when you meet with the prospects, meet with the clients, and they see this red, and they've given you all their numbers, and you've gone through each one and talked about it and what's reasonable, then they can't disclaim what it shows, because you built it as a team together. So when it shows they're out of money, now they're starting to get nervous, and then they just, hey Mike, how can we fix this problem? So that's the high level of what the program can do from a psychological perspective. And we built a basic plan. So let's talk about these buttons down the side.
Yep.
Unless you have any questions at this point.
Just one technical question.
Mm-hmm.
This is where they're starting from.
Mm-hmm.
As you start to implement product solutions.
Uh-huh.
So, for example, what would it look like if we took $500,000 of the 401k and put it in an annuity that has an income stream longer than the principal? Will it illustrate those concepts?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
We'll get to that. Let's hold that for a minute till we get to the cash infusions and special expenses buttons. And let me just talk about how these buttons work, and then we'll use that as one of our examples.
Okay.
Okay? All right. So, I can go back to 100,000. It's a little boring because there is not a lot of excitement going on. But let's look at the savings graph here. You could also call it the investments graph. So it's tracking their accumulating investments. So we start with $1,655,000, and we go across here, and they're still accumulating. That's where we got the green on there. Now we get out here to like 88, 89. Now the 3% inflation is starting to catch up.
Yeah.
And still, though, at age 103 for him and 100 for her, they still have 800,000. So again, these people don't really have a big retirement problem on the surface. Now, we haven't talked about volatility and whether they're all in the market. Right. So let's actually, just for grins, let's put the 125,000 in just to see that, oh yeah, they are depleting. That's what depletion looks like. So here they run out of money at 89, 90, right in there. So that's one thing, is if they end up, withdrawing extra money for extra expenses they don't anticipate, that can have a big effect, especially if it occurs early in retirement. The third button here is the spreadsheet. I'm not sitting here condoning you should go through the spreadsheet with clients. In fact, I would highly suggest not to do that. But the reason why we put it here is so that you can look at all the numbers. If you're a numbers person, we're not trying to hide anything. We show all our calculations. And you'll see that when we have colors, like this is the Social Security blue, that's the same blue on the income graph. You got green for growth, that's the same green on the income graph. So it's showing you which column is driving that on the graph, yellow for the pension. Of course, the last column is the shortfall, red. Okay. So those are your three views. Most of the time you're going to stick with the retirement income graph and focus on their income picture.
Right.
Now the next three buttons are where the program goes from just a simplistic program to a simple but comprehensive program. And there's kind of a great distinction there. So, it's nice in what we just did, but there's a lot of other things we want to be able to do. So we started by just saying, hey, John, how much you got? He's got about $1.5 million. We just put that in. Well, if we click on the investments button, you then have the option to enter each of their accounts in detail and do a detailed listing, if you will, with the return, whether it's the client or the spouse, what the tax type is. And if you do that, then the program will calculate a blended return. So let's say you put, 4 different qualified accounts, and they're at different returns, performing differently. We'll calculate a blended return for you, and then when you hit Add to Plan, it'll pop those numbers onto the main screen. So think of this as a detailed listing that if you take the time to do that, I'm going to just hit Cancel because we haven't entered anything. But if you take the time to do that, it's going to pop those numbers onto here for the balances and returns, the balance of the taxable, the returns, the balance of the tax-free, the returns, etc. And that way, if you have someone with a lot of accounts and you want to do a detailed job, you can actually print that page out. So if you don't enter the investments on the investment button, you're just printing the summaries on the summary page, which we do have a page for that. But if you put it in detail, there's a separate page that you can print out with the detailed listing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, now here's the really fun part, cash infusions, and I think I mentioned that in a little PowerPoint there. This models any lump sum or any series of payments that come into the picture. So some examples. You can use any line for whatever you want to use it for, but we pop up some examples just to get your noodle thinking.
Okay.
Sale or downsize the home. That's typically a lump sum. Inheritance, typically a one-time lump sum. Part-time job, usually a multi-year deal. Life insurance proceeds, probably a lump sum. Annuity payments. Now, we only have one line on here, but again, you're free to use as many lines as you want. You can use any line for whatever you want. Just think of one annuity per line. You could model split annuity arrangements. You can model lifetime annuities. You can model, single premium annuity, then a deferred annuity, then a lifetime annuity, however you want to do it. So we'll talk more about that. Here's some other examples of retirement packages, maybe rental properties. Maybe they have a business they're going to sell. So there's lots of things you can do with it. Let's just do one real quick, downsize the home, and then they're going to pull out $200,000. Now, in this case, there was no red, and they're higher net worth, so this is not as typical for a high net worth situation. But a lot of, upper middle class, a lot of times if they run out of money at 85, they could downsize their home, pull out some equity, and use that to go a little further. So let's say they do that at age 70, and it's just a one-time lump sum, and they don't have to pay any taxes on it because it's their home. And I'm going to add that into the plan. Now we see a little white here, so it'll use that income in the year it comes in before it goes into the investment pools. That's all that means. Let's go to the savings graph. You see a nonlinear bump here?
Yep.
Where the $200,000 comes in, and now out here they have a little bit more money, 1.5. So actually that early infusion of the extra money over the next, 30 years compounded to, I think, the $800,000 before. Now they got 1.5. That's pretty good.
So the lower darker green represents what compared to
the tax deferred.
Okay.
Then the medium green is taxable.
Okay.
So
all right.
The reason why there's taxable because the RMDs are occurring and they're not really using them all up, so they're accumulating in the taxable pool.
Yes.
In early years, there was a little bit of tax-free, but the program depletes the tax-free first, so that looks like it went first when they retired.
All right.
So out here they have a taxable pool, and then they have the tax-deferred pool.
All right.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's do a multi-year thing just to show what that looks like.
Okay.
And again, I doubt these people are going to do part-time job. Maybe they got rental properties. I'm just going to make that up. Let's say they get $14,000 a year net on some rental properties, and they're just going to keep that for the rest of their life. And maybe they owe 21% taxes on the income there. So I'm going to add that into the plan. Okay. Okay, so now they got $2.6 million at the very end of the plan, age 103. So we're just injecting more money into their coffers is all we're doing. But even as little as $11,000 after taxes, that extra money made a huge difference in their long-term because of the 6% compounding.
Right. Okay.
So you see how that white other income looks like another guaranteed payment for life. It's down there with the Social Security and the pension. So that's also how we can do annuities. I might as well bring that up right now. I'm going to uncheck that. So like if you don't want to include something, you could say, let's forget the rental properties, and they're not going to downsize their home. So if I just uncheck them, I can leave all this data I entered so I can bring it back later if I want. But I can add that back and just remove those things. Now we're back to the original plan. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay,
so if you wanted to just do lifetime annuity income, then what would be an example of an income from an annuity? So
well,
get that from the insurance company.
Yeah, let's say $20,000.
Okay, so they can get $20,000 a year, and starting at 66.
No, let's start that at 76.
Okay, 76, and it'll go to the rest of the life.
Yeah.
So I usually just put a big number like 40 on there. Will they have to pay any taxes on that $20,000?
Yeah, it'll be ordinary income tax on all of it. It's a qualified.
Okay, so we add that into the plan. Okay, so you see the white other income. That's the annuity. See that?
I do.
Okay, great. All right, so that's what that looks like. Then the last button here to show is the special expenses. Click on that. So that's the opposite of infusions. It's like other expenses. We're already modeling $100,000 at 3%, but say their mortgage wasn't going to be paid off until 5 years into retirement.
Okay.
So, for example, you could do mortgage payoff in retirement. And we just model the retirement piece because we want to model that going away. Let's say it's $12,000 a year, and at 66 they still have, 5 years to go. So we can put that into the plan. And so down here you see that bumped up a little bit. What if they had some big medical expenses? Maybe they had some $50,000 surgery thing go on at age 73. Again, this will be a one-time lump sum. Let's apply some inflation to that. Medical 5-6%. Let's say that goes up by a little bit. Add that into the plan. Now you see a spike there where we added the medical expenses. So kind of like an abnormal. So you can add as many of these things. Maybe they want a lake house, take big vacations. You could do a total budget. You can model it in periods. We're going to go over that on one of the other calls that we do. But for now, just know that you can layer these special expenses. As far as the annuity goes, we did enter annuity for $20,000 of income, but what we didn't model was the premium. So how much premium did it cost to get that $20,000 income stream?
Well, let's say they put $200,000 in this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is model a annuity premium, and you might put the product ABC annuity premium, $200,000.
Yeah.
And we're doing it now at 65, and it's a one-time expense. And we're going to take it, this is real key for the qualified annuities, you can take it from tax-deferred only, and we'll take that out. And basically what we did was we took the $200,000 out of the 1.5, but what did they get? They got a $20,000 for life income stream. Okay?
Yeah.
So now they get more guaranteed money for life, but actually the premium, since we were compounding at 6%, now they got a little red that's crept in. So that's later on down, way on down.
And we just made up numbers.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just trying to show you how. The reality is you probably run these numbers before your meeting so that you don't have any surprises.
Yeah.
But don't underestimate the value of building the plan with the client in real time and getting their buy-in into each number, because later when you show problems or suggest solutions, the easiest sale you're ever going to make is when you show problems and they say, Mike, how do we fix these problems? And you say, oh, here's a couple of solutions, and then they're just picking one of the solutions. There's no selling involved. It's all problem solving.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're seeing their own picture live and in living color. Okay, so we built a picture and we added all kinds of extra things and shown how we can inject income streams, add and layer on more expenses. We can do detailed investments. Last couple of things I wanted to show today, because I didn't want to go too long. We're going to break this up into several trainings. Under the Pro menu, there's a menu at the top called the Pro menu. There's two important items you want to take note of. One is customized contact info.
Right.
And when you go in there, that's where you can put your company and your phone and contact info. That'll show up on the cover page when you print. So you want to enter all that. And then The other one is customized disclaimers and compliance. So that's where you can, if asset marketing requires you to put certain disclosures and disclaimers, or if you have a broker-dealer or what have you, this is where you put all that. And if you don't want one, like there's a little one on the cover page. Some of the broker-dealers have been wanting a FINRA SIPC disclosure on the cover page, so that's what this one is for. But if you don't need that, you can just leave it blank. All right, last thing is print that detailed report. Let's say you do want to print it. I'll let you know that I know several big producers that don't give any printed reports. One in particular, he says that, if you let them walk out with a report, it's going to let them think about it. It's going to let them take it to their existing advisor if they have one. It's going to let them take it to their brother-in-law, their cousin, their neighbor that they know that might be an advisor. It doesn't necessarily lend a lot of value, but there is a report if you want to do it. File, print detailed report. We go in there and you can select the pages. So like we didn't enter the detailed investments on the investment button. We just entered the thumbnail number, so I'm not going to print that page. We did enter some cash infusions and special expenses, savings graph, retirement graph, and there's a little mini spreadsheet, non-most important column. So I'm just going to print all that. And let's see if I can make it do a print preview. Yeah, print preview, then we can see it briefly. Again, it's a very keep it simple report. It's got a basic cover page where you're going to have their names. So I just put sample for John and Susan Smith. If this was really for John and Susan Smith, I wouldn't put sample for, obviously. It's got your contact info. Then we got the summary of all the stuff we entered at the bottom of the main screen.
Right.
We've got the cash infusions that we entered. In this case, we only had one. We unchecked the other ones, so they're not in there. Special expenses, we put in several of those. We've got the retirement income graph. We've got the savings graph. We've got the little mini spreadsheet. So again, it's still manageable, but if somebody does want to see some basic numbers, you can see the shortfalls here. You can see the total investments. You can see their target income goal with inflation going up every year. And then the last page, important notes, that's just the disclaimers page. So actually that was 8 pages. If you printed the investments report, that'd be 9 pages. If you maybe printed the RMDs, that'd be a couple more pages. But generally, you're talking about 8 to 12 pages at most. So again, keep it simple. We're not trying to print a 100-page report. We're not trying to print a 50-page report, not even a 30-page report. Just enough for them, if you do give them a report, just enough for them to feel like they took something home and that you added value. Okay. I will say, however, that I do know some advisors that charge for this exercise. I would say that most advisors don't charge. They do it as part of their onboarding process and prospecting new client process. But I do have some that charge $400 or $500. I know one guy that charges $1,000 to do this, but he actually has them go through a 6-session class on retirement planning, which they already paid for. So they already seen them talking and already started thinking about working with them. Then when they meet with them, he's like, okay, next step is you pay me to analyze all your situation, and it's $1,000. And he uses that as a gateway, like people that aren't serious aren't going to want to pay that. But he finds that most of the people do pay it. So that was it. Any other questions?
Can you illustrate volatility?
Yes, good question. And we're going to go over that in more detail. But let's say you want to say stock market correction. So actually what I would do before I did that, I would go to the investment screen. Actually, I go to the savings graph. What year do you want to show a correction?
Well, can you show a market cycle?
No, not really.
Just 1 year, so you could show, for example, what 25% market correction.
Okay, so let's say we do that at age 70. So I go to the savings graph, I go to 70, and look in the top right, it says 1.6 million, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So then you can, pull out your calculator. What's 25% of 1.6 million? It's, about 375.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go under special expenses, stock market correction, 375,000. And we're going to do that at age 70, and we're going to do it as a one-time event. So, it's modeling a correction like a real thing. Their balances, everything's dropped. Now, they're going to still recover at 6% and 5% and what have you. But it basically depletes, and then they're going to try to recover afterwards. Well, look what that did. Had very little red before, and now they've tanked. So, okay, what if there was another second correction, say 200,000, and that occurs at, I don't know, 70, let's say 80, 10 years later. So now I got another correction. So, it's not going to, this thing doesn't do Monte Carlo simulations because we feel that that's too complicated and it gets people all confused. But you can show these little corrections and, just show it as an example of what can happen. Just make sure you obviously tell them that, no, volatility is, nobody knows what's going to happen, and all the typical disclaimers that have to be made when you're talking about volatility. Yeah, okay. Okay, so let's say you want to take that away. I go into special expenses, check, uncheck, uncheck, add the plan, then we'll be back to the original picture without the corrections. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording, and we can still talk after that. But this is Tim Turner signing off for today. Thanks for attending the first training. Hopefully you found it useful, and you're able to see how we can build a full retirement picture in detail for someone in as little as 10, 15 minutes. You can obviously spend longer on it, but you can see that you can